私の視界から逃げてみな。私が狙いをつけた獲物は絶対に逃がさないよ。
ルドミラ、君はまた問題を起こしたのは君なのに始末書を書いているのは私だなんて。
Hey guys, and welcome back to another Brave 9 video. This video is going to be about how to set up a good arena formation, and I'm partly doing this because we have this new World Arena beta thing coming out, and we can participate in about 2 days or so, which is essentially the next Monday after this current arena season ends. The rewards are absolutely brilliant. We have lots of diamonds, ancient coins, and world ticket, which is something that you can use to purchase Carry Queen Valze, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that. It might take you several runs though, depending on what rank you get, but it's absolutely worth it and you should definitely do it. However, there is a catch to this, and this is the biggest reason why I'm making this video, right? Because I clicked on the wrong thing. Because in order to participate in the World Arena, you have to be in Go 3 or above in this current arena season. So it's ending on Sunday, so even though I'm really busy right now with university and lots of other stuff, I'm trying to push out this video as soon as possible so that you guys get hopefully some tips and they'll help you push through to Go 3, especially for the beginner players. I know that it's sometimes pretty difficult just to get the last step from Silver 1 to Go 3, and I'm just really hoping that this video will help you do that. Anyway, I'm dividing this video into 2 segments. One will be for the more intermediate to advanced players. So you guys, I'll put a timestamp here to skip to if you want to just listen to the strategic part of this. And for the newer players, before I get to that, I want to talk a bit about the basics of how battles in Brave 9 works. So for that, I'll go to Mystic Island. And for players who already know this, feel free to skip it. But this is really just for the benefit of newer players. So let's just enter this random person's island here. Okay, so there are 2 main things that I want to talk about that might seem pretty like common sense-ish, but trust me, they're really essential when it comes to setting up a formation. So the first thing that I want to talk about is lane priority. So what is lane priority? Well, lane priority essentially decides what your mercenary attacks. So let's take for example Angelica here. I'm going to speak about this in a context where there are no taunts, by the way. So given that there are no taunts, Angelica is going to hit Lucius because, well, Lucius is in the top row and Angelica is in the top row, so obviously she's going to hit the top row. Now what happens when there aren't any mercenaries in the top row though? So if I shift everyone down here, this Angelica then attack the middle row or the bottom row. Well, turns out she attacks the middle row, and there is sort of a rule to that. So the way lane priority works in, I almost say Brown Dust again, the way lane priority works in Brave 9 is that the first priority is always going to be to attack the mercenary in the same row as you are. So Angelica is in the top row, she'll attack a mercenary in the top row. If there aren't any mercenaries in the top row, the next priority will be the lane right below it. So if it's not the top row, the next priority will be the middle row. And similarly, once these 3 units are gone from the middle row, she will then start to attack the bottom row. This is really apparent for the top row and maybe for the middle row, but it's not that apparent for the bottom row, because let's say you have some mercenaries at the bottom. They're going to attack my mercenaries at the bottom row, but once this is done, say if I had some mercenaries here and Narcissus dies, then Benchina is going to have no one to attack in the bottom row. Is she going to attack the top lane or the middle lane though? According to our rule, we attack the lane right below it, but in the case of the bottom row, there's nothing to attack, so it does a rotation up to the top lane and she ends up attacking the top lane like so. So she attacks Dalvi in this case. This seems really trivial, but this is probably one of the biggest points to make use of when setting up an arena formation. Second of all, what I wanted to talk about is what is considered a turn in Brave 9. Well, we know that battles usually go turn by turn, so you have a chance to do something, the opponent has a chance to do something, and then it's back to you, back to him, and you sort of do this until all your mercenaries have moved. But when do you actually get a turn to attack or move? Well, that's only decided when someone from your team actually goes over to the opponent team and gives them a hit. So what that means is that for supporters who don't actually hit the enemy, or magicians charging up, it's not going to be considered a turn. So, well, technically it is, but you wouldn't pass your turn over to the opponent to move after this. So you can make use of this fact and do what's called support chaining. So obviously I have Refi here, and Refi's pretty much all you need if you have her at plus 12 and above. Situationally, of course, you might want to have different supports though, and I'll illustrate this especially for people who don't have Refi. So what I can do here is have Refi move first and then Nautiz second. So Refi goes first, Nautiz charges up, and it's still my turn because none of my two mercenaries here have landed a hit on the enemy mercenary. So what this allows me to do then is if I set Michaela at 3, I can then go on to buff Dalvi, and Dalvi will be the first to attack. Once Dalvi has attacked, then and only then will the enemy get to move. So that's a really important concept that might seem, again, really trivial and easy to remember, but you really have to be very, very familiar with it when coming up with your information. And hopefully, yeah, for beginners, you will get used to this in due time. Anyway, it's time to actually move on to creating the formation. So this is the important part of, I guess, my discussion in this video. Okay, so finally we're at the interesting bit. I'm going to try to get you into the mindset of creating a team that will beat most people, and this part is really important, most people in your tier. So it really depends on what the trend is in your current tier. It differs a lot from server to server, and obviously in the same server, in different ranks and different tiers, it's going to change as well. So even though I'm at Ruby right now, I definitely will not guarantee to even beat people from Sapphire most of the time, because I just don't know what the trend in Sapphire will be. They might, for all I know, play teams that beat my team really easily, so it's all comparative, it's all relative. All you want to do is try to beat as many people as you can and lose to only the niche teams. That's usually how climbing an arena works. So you can see that I lose to some people here and there. I can get like utterly trashed, but in the end what matters is that I beat most people anyway, and that's how you climb in the arena. Oh, Tachibana. Hello. He's a YouTuber, really cool guy. But yeah, anyway, so let's actually get to the team formation, and what I'm going to do is I'll run through my sort of how I go through my thought process as I'm trying to create a team, and hopefully you guys get to see it. Oh, actually, silly of me to forget this, but in order to design a team, you have to first know what the trend in your arena is. So there are two important things to note, I would say. The first would be you have to know what kind of mercenaries are in almost every team. I can list off the top of my head. I know that Angelica, Grandhilder, Lucius, Nautiz, Ludmilla, Christina, Dalvi, Benchina, Refi. I just listed everyone on my team actually, but that's just by coincidence. There's also Levia, who's really popular. Recently I've seen a lot of, what's her name? The one of the taunt, the puppet girl. Oh yeah, Legless. Right, Legless. So recently I've seen lots of Legglesses around, so that's something that I also have to take into consideration. Velfern is also getting kind of popular these days. I lost to quite a few Velferns. I think people are also playing the Veronia Taylor combo, which seems to be pretty good. Someone left a comment. Good on you, by the way, you just predicted the trend. What a legend. But yeah, so these types of things you have to consider. That's the first thing, popular mercenaries. The second thing to consider will be the general formation shape. What I mean by that is I usually call formations like this a top team, like a top formation, because most of his mercenaries are in the top. And for teams with Nartis, usually the type of formation they run is just whatever lane that they have Nartis in. So this is my team, and I would consider myself to be a mid team. This guy, for example, is also a mid team. This guy is also a mid team, especially looking out for Nartis over here. He is a top team. He is a top team. So it seems like lots of people play either top or mid. So that's also a trend that you've got to take into consideration. So these two things, the most deployed mercenaries that you see, and also the types of trends of kinds of formations that people use in your tier. Okay, that being said, I can finally get to my thought process when creating a team. So when you play in Arena, you have to capitalize on the fact that you're attacking first. So this is a huge advantage for Nartis users, because say if I have a Nartis over here and the enemy has a Nartis in his row, none of us have Cecilia or any forms of guarding our entire row. Most of our mercenaries are just somewhere in the center. If I'm the one attacking and both of our Narcissus survive by round 2, I will literally just destroy his entire row before his Narcissus gets to attack. So that's one big advantage, and it's something that you definitely have to take advantage of when you're considering a team for attacking people in Arena. So the type of units that you play obviously depend on what good units you have available. I like to use Ludmilla a lot, especially in this Nartis dominant meta. Almost everyone's playing Nartis. If not, they're playing Levia. If not, they're playing Velfern. They're all mages, and Ludmilla just absolutely decimates them. So, wait, is that the mage skill? Yeah. I thought I clicked on this one. But yeah, so not only that, Ludmilla can also get rid of the first warrior that she sees. And through experience, I know that Ludmilla kills pretty much everyone except for Lucius and Glacia. Unbuffed, by the way. I think once buffed, she can't kill quite a few mercenaries. Maybe, definitely not Grandhilder, but she can kill an unbuffed Grandhilder. And that's the beauty of going first. So what I would do is I'll play a Ludmilla. Let me just get rid of Angelica here first. And I want to make use of the fact that Ludmilla can kill almost everyone first. And that kind of ties in with Benshina, who I also have. Because Benshina gets a taunt whenever you kill someone. And ideally, you'll want to have a taunt so that people find it hard to get to your main team. So place your taunt somewhere safe, and I would probably want to do, yeah, just something like this, because Nartis can go first. He always has to go first, because if I don't go first, I'm not taking advantage of the whole arena thing where the attacker gets to go first. Next, I definitely have to have a buffer. I play Nartis 1 and then Refi 2 and Ludmilla 3 because if I played it this way, I have to beware of opponents using Ludmilla. So if I had a formation like this, or whichever two mercenaries that I put here, unless it's Cecilia blocking, a Ludmilla will be able to get rid of my Nartis. Right, and I definitely don't want that. So I can't have Nartis here, I have to have him in front, But having him in front, if I buffed him like this, you can very clearly see that Christina doesn't get the buff. So after experimenting for a bit, I know that more than half the time, playing it like this with Nartes charging up first, Refi, and then going into Ludmila, by the time it reaches the second round, Nartes will still have his buff on half the time. Also, it's not that consequential for Nartes. Even without Refi's buff, Nartes kills pretty much every warrior anyway, maybe except for Angelica, but yeah, it's not as consequential as, say, maybe Ludmila. Ludmila without a buff, I haven't actually tested that, but some warriors just don't perform well without a buff, but Nartes he can take that risk. Therefore, I play Nartes first, and then into Refi, into Ludmila. Ludmila, most likely, if it's not a Lucius or a Glacia in the opponent team, where Ludmila will be hitting, Ludmila is going to kill someone, and when she does, Benchina is going to get taunt, and so I then have to make sure that no one is going to get hurt from opponents targeting Benchina. Taylor is sort of on the rising trend right now, but I still don't see her a lot. So this X shape right here is fairly safe. Mercenaries that I see a lot are Dalvi, opponent Ludmila's, Christina's, Angelica, and stuff like that. So Angelica hits Benchina and the tile behind, so I'm not going to put anyone there. Christina hits 2 tiles behind, so yeah, I'm not going to put anyone there as well, unless they have 100% defense. Dalvi, I'm not going to put anyone beside her in the middle row here, which is why I left that empty. It's these sort of things, knowing what kind of mercenaries your opponent team likes to use will be able to help you defend better. So this is why I don't play, mercenaries beside or behind Benchina if I can. I have a Lucius here. So what I was talking about before, if you skipped it in the front of the video, I talked about lane priority. So this type of formation is really vulnerable against teams that focus on the top. So i.e. Nartes on top, stuff like that, because the next lane that they'll target after demolishing the top will be my middle lane. Whereas if I were to want to attack them at top, I'll have to get through the middle lane and the bottom lane before I get to the top lane. So I have a 1 lane deficit, and that's a really important thing to consider. So I definitely want to make sure that my top lane is going to be as safe as possible, and therefore Lucius, which is the best, well, the defender who can take the most number of hits, let's put it that way, is deployed on top because I want them to reach me as slowly as possible. I'll also put him in front because I know that Christina does a skip, and therefore I'll probably put someone behind Lucius and make sure Lucius is front so that his Death Guard doesn't get absolutely decimated by Christina. So I might put someone behind over there. I'll just put Angelica as a placeholder. Maybe I'll just put Dalvi down here. I don't know, just for the fun of it, because she has 100% defense. She's not gonna die to Christina. I'm just sort of moving stuff around and seeing the possibilities. Right, so I also want to consider this. It might not be enough to just have Angelica on the top row, because Nartes, once he gets rid of Angelica on the second round, Christina can then kill Lucius really easily. So maybe there's a way to get rid of the opponent Nartes. And there is. That's my girl, Grenhilder, over here. So I deploy Grenhilder here. She has taunt, so we have to be careful of that. If she taunts too early, the chances are Angelica is going to come and kill Grenhilder, so I put her taunt fairly late so that she most likely wouldn't die. I'm also going first, again capitalizing on this fact, and it's why I emphasized it so much at the front of the video. Because I'm going first, my Grenhilder is buffed. She won't die to the opponent Ludmila on the top lane. She won't die to Christina. She just she's overall really solid, and the only mercenaries that she'll die to would be Edin and Angelica, and Levia. Levia and other mages that can kill her, I don't know. They can only attack on turn 2, so I do have some leeway there. Plus, anyway, Nartes always goes first, so Nartes, she's gonna fulfill her role anyway. Even if they have Levia after Nartes, Nartes is going to suicide into Grandholder, and Grandholder has fulfilled her role. Edin attacks front, so he won't be able to get to Grandholder, and people usually don't play Angelica as their first attacker. As I mentioned before, Ludmila actually usually kills someone, so Benchina's taunt is activated, and when Benchina's taunt is activated, she protects everyone else, and there's a higher chance that my other mercenaries around will survive to try and get more kills, which then will activate Benchina's taunt more and more often. So in the likely scenario, Benchina is going to have taunt most of the time, and therefore, even if Angelica moves, she'll probably hit my Benchina and not my Grandholder. So my Grandholder will survive, and she will provide cover for me in case of Nartes. So that's sort of my defense against top teams. Now against middle teams, like I mentioned, Ludmila will probably destroy 1 or 2 mercenaries at the back. Plus middle teams tend to not fill up the entire row, because say if you're playing a top team, or something like that, top and bottom, which used to be a really popular formation a few months ago before this 6th double update, you can see that in the top, everyone is filling up a spot. And that's relatively okay, but once you go to the center, you usually don't want your taunts to be side by side with your mercenary. Say if I had Benchina like this, and Dalvi attacked her, then like, that's bye bye for Nartes. So taunts tend to have to be separated like that, and that only leaves 4 people in the middle. And of 4 people here, the chances are that when Ludmila comes in and attacks this, not a lot of people are going to be left. Plus, I still have my other mercenaries who might potentially clean up the middle row, and Nartes is attacking first anyway. So the middle row is relatively safe. I don't know why I had the urge to say safe for consumption. Totally random, but yeah. So the middle row is relatively safe because Nartes is going to swipe the entire row anyway. Ludmila is there to take the initial kill. There's also Christina and Angelica, just in case something happens there. So middle row, I'm fairly safe. In fact, it's my safest row to fight against. So we've considered the top row, we've considered the bottom, the middle row. Now let's take a look at the bottom row. If the opponents were playing a bottom team formation, that's to my advantage because, like I said about lane priority, the bottom lane would have to get rid of my bottom lane and then get rid of my top lane before they can reach me in middle. However, in middle, all I need to do is get rid of middle lane and their bottom lane is exposed. So overall, top lane would be my weakest sort of enemies to fight, but it's also, it can be reversed, like using the Uno reverse, you know? Like, you can use that weakness as your strength, like how I do with Grandholder. Because earlier on when we did the analysis of how most teams are like, we noticed that there are quite a lot of middle teams, there are quite a lot of top teams, and that number of top teams, if I can successfully deploy Grandholder there and keep her alive until turn 2, then I'm going to be able to use this to my advantage because I'll be able to get rid of Nartes. Bottom lane is usually never a concern, unless there's like a Glacier plus Lucius in middle, and like other taunts like Benchina and Grandholder elsewhere. That's like the absolute nightmare. But again, like I said, it's gonna get so messy. I feel like I've said "like I said" so many times. but you're trying to beat most teams, you're not trying to beat every team. So when I'm creating this formation, I know very clearly that there are certain kinds of teams that I'll definitely lose to. When I enter the arena match, sometimes I just take 2 seconds looking at the opponents and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get wrecked this match. So, but it doesn't happen often. What you're trying to do is just beat most teams, like I said. So yeah, I haven't really meddled with the turn order, but that's kind of my thought process when creating a team. Obviously, if you're in other tiers, there's going to be other kind of mercenaries that you use. Most likely, I guess your skill levels won't be as high, but there's always a way around it by using more supporters or stuff like that to buff your damage delays. There's all sorts of ways to think about, but I can only talk about the trend in Ruby right now because I'm in Ruby. But if you're in Gold, hopefully these skills of analysis will pass on to you, and you'll have to do the analyzing yourself of the trend that you're in, and then set up a team to beat that trend. So I'm not sure if I explained it clearly. I probably didn't, but yeah. I hope you guys did learn something from it anyway, and I'll probably just leave off with a couple of matches so that you can see the strengths and weaknesses of my team and how it all plays out as I described it. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I know it's a really long video, but arena formations are just such a complex topic and you can't really do an in-depth guide without making it somewhat long-ish. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy the matches to come, and I'll see you guys in World Arena. Bye!
Feel uninvited, left home in West LA, I'm not excited, so uninspired, on my way to play the bay while you're